Hey everyone, welcome to the Open Question. Have you ever wondered why so many religions seem to share similar stories, rituals, and even beliefs? You might think that each religion is a completely unique set of ideas. But if you look closely, you'll start noticing patterns that repeat across different cultures and centuries. It's almost as if religious ideas have been passed around and borrowed, transformed, and adapted by different societies throughout history. Take, for example, the story of a divine figure who dies and rises again. Almost every major religion at some point has featured a deity who goes through a death and resurrection cycle. The most famous is the story of Jesus Christ in Christianity, but you'll find similar tales in ancient mythologies, long before Christianity ever existed. The ancient Egyptians had Osiris, a god who was killed, resurrected, and associated with life after death. Then there's Mithras, a Persian god whose birth was celebrated on December 25th, and who also underwent death and rebirths. Even in Hinduism, there are figures like Krishna, who experiences death and returns, ensuring that the cycle of life continues. But why does this pattern repeat? Is it because human beings, across different societies, are drawn to similar concepts of life and death? Or is it because ideas travel and transform? To answer this, we need to look at the way religions have interacted with each other over millennia. Religion, as we know it today, didn't come about in a vacuum. In the ancient world, civilizations were constantly interacting, whether through trade, war, or cultural exchange. When the Romans conquered Egypt, for example, they didn't just take over land, they took ideas, symbols, and stories. The Roman god Jupiter merged with the Egyptian god Amun, creating a hybrid god, Jupiter-Amun. In the same way, the Greek god Zeus, known for his thunderbolts and power, was later linked to gods from other parts of the world, transforming over time into various forms of worship and belief systems. The concept of monotheism, the belief in a single, all-powerful god, appears to have originated in ancient Egypt with the pharaoh Akhenaten around 1370 BCE. He introduced the worship of Aten, the sun disk, as the sole god. This idea of a single deity would later influence the development of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Yet, even in these monotheistic religions, we see traces of polytheism and ideas borrowed from older systems. Christianity, for instance, adopted many of its holidays and practices from older pagan traditions. Christmas, as mentioned, is celebrated on December 25th, a date originally tied to the Roman festival of Sol Invictus, celebrating the unconquered sun. The idea of a paradise or an afterlife reward also spans across cultures. Ancient Mesopotamians believed in a land of no return, a shadowy place for souls. Ancient Greeks had the Elysian Fields, a blissful afterlife for heroes. Zoroastrianism, an ancient Persian religion, promoted the idea of a final judgment day, where the good are rewarded and the evil punished, an idea later adopted by Christianity and Islam. But it's not just ideas about the afterlife that religions borrow from one another. The way people practice religion often has roots in ancient rituals that were later adapted and merged. The practice of baptism, for example, didn't start with Christianity. Ancient Egyptians had a similar purification ritual, using water to cleanse and renew the spirit. In fact, many of the symbolic rituals in Christianity, like the Eucharist or communion, are borrowed from earlier pagan traditions. The idea of bread and wine as symbols of divine presence can be traced back to Dionysian cults, where followers consumed wine as a way of connecting with the god of wine and revelry. Even the concept of religious texts being divinely inspired or revealed has historical precursors. The ancient Sumerians had tablets and epics that were considered divinely dictated. The Hindu Vedas, the oldest religious texts still in use today, were passed down through oral tradition and believed to be the product of divine inspiration. Similarly, the Quran in Islam is regarded as the literal word of God, yet the way it was revealed through a prophet mirrors how many other cultures viewed their sacred scriptures. As religions expanded across the globe, they encountered different cultures and belief systems, often absorbing and reworking foreign ideas. When Buddhism spread from India to China, for example, it adopted many elements of Chinese culture, including certain deities and folklore, and in turn influenced the local religious practices. Similarly, when Islam spread through Persia and into the Mediterranean, it encountered the philosophical traditions of ancient Greece, which helped shape Islamic thought. Even today, religions continue to borrow ideas from one another. New Age spiritual movements, which are often a blend of various Eastern and Western traditions, mix concepts of karma, meditation, and healing with Western ideas of personal transformation. In some ways, religious syncretism, blending and merging different religious traditions, has become a hallmark of the modern spiritual landscape. What's fascinating about this is that many of these borrowings and adaptations happened without people even realizing it at the time. Over centuries, beliefs and practices were exchanged and transformed, often losing their original context in the process. What we see today as individual, unique religions are often the product of centuries of mixing and evolving ideas, drawn from different corners of the world. It's also important to remember that religion is a human creation, shaped by the social, political, and cultural environments in which it exists. The power of a religion, its appeal, and its ability to influence people often depends on how well it can resonate with their lives. Whether it's through a shared belief in the divine, the promise of an afterlife, or the sense of belonging to a greater community, religion reflects the deepest desires, fears, and hopes of human beings. And because these desires are shared across cultures, it's no surprise that religious ideas have crossed borders, influenced each other, and evolved over time. In the end, what we're left with is a mosaic of religious ideas, ideas that borrow, blend, and adapt to fit the needs of the people who hold them. What's striking about this is that, at their core, all religions are searching for the same answers to the same big questions. Why are we here? What happens after we die? How should we live our lives? The answers may differ, but the questions are universal. And perhaps that's the most important thing to take away from this, that no religion is entirely its own. All of them are part of a larger story, a story of human culture and belief that stretches across time and space. Religions borrow from each other, not just because they are copying, but because they are all part of an ongoing conversation that spans cultures and centuries. And in that conversation, we can see how much we as human beings have in common, no matter where we come from or what we believe. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. I will see you next time.